Hey now, good morning, PSW staff, clients, friends joining us for a lovely Tuesday. Welcome. Yesterday we had a lot of fun looking at The Great Escape and your film scoring assignment, so get that into me by today. We'll see the results for Friday. So far they're looking pretty good. I'm very excited today because we get to talk about a composer I've been wanting to talk about, somebody that's important to talk about, somebody that I know that you're going to really enjoy because of his beautiful romantic music. One of the greatest composers of the late 19th century, which is the Romantic period. And we've talked about one of his friends earlier, Dvořák. This guy used folk influences and romanticism to create almost a new sound, but most importantly, wrote really beautiful music that we still know today, and you'll know some of these pieces. So very excited today to talk to you about the great Czech composer Dvořák. Dvořák, funny spelling, not funny, but I mean that you pronounce it Dvořák. Born in 1841, dies in 1904, so lives to about age 62, dies of an attack of influenza. Czech composer, one of the first to really get worldwide fame. Would use aspects of folk rhythms in his native country, and but we'll see that when he gets to America, how his style changes a little bit, and how he turned folk material into 19th century romantic music. We've talked about romantic music because by the 20th century, romanticism kind of fades a little bit and modernism comes in. His first writings were just unnoticed completely, and really he struggled a lot in the beginning part of his career with poverty and all that stuff, and was really critical of his stuff and burned a lot of his early works, in fact. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's just talk a little bit about Dvořák, then we're going to listen to some great pieces. Then we'll be done. We got to get out of here. We got to move on with other stuff. So let's look at my fancy map. We were at near the Austrian border for the Great Escape. So let's go to Prague. It was the Czech Republic, but pretty much now it's Prague. And where's my timeline? Where is that timeline? There it is. There's the timeline. We need it. This is context, right? So Tchaikovsky's writing at this point. Brahms is writing. We did a class on Brahms. Brahms is going to be hugely influential and really kind of breaking Dvořák into international fame and success, but we'll get to that. Dvořák is starting to write, and they were friends. This is before Ravel. This is before Scott Joplin. This is before Aaron Copland, as you can see. And this is kind of toward the end of Wagner as well, too. So this is Romanticism. We're going to be talking about that. So born near Prague, and it was the Austrian Empire, and it was Bohemia, the village. He had a very humble background. He was going to be a butcher. So his father was an innkeeper and a butcher, but he played the zither, which is kind of like a flat guitar. His father did that, but his parents were pretty supportive and encouraged him to, even though they were really poor, encouraged him to study music, but he was going to be a butcher. So he's kind of taught to play the violin by a teacher, and he shows early talent. Starts playing in village church bands, and then takes organ and piano lessons and violin lessons, and studies music theory, and is introduced to the composers of the time that we just looked at. Then he leaves Prague in 1857 and to enter the organ school. And then he marries in 1873 his wife, Anna. He courts her, and he eventually, first off, he wanted her sister, Josephina. But she was like, no, I'm not into you. So, you settle for second best, the sister, instead. So the two of them have a very happy life. This is when he writes his serenades, which we're going to look at a little bit later, because that's kind of probably my favorite of all of his works. So in the 1870s, he writes the serenades. 1890 is very influenced by Tchaikovsky, and Tchaikovsky's writing his music, just about done writing it because he dies in the early 1890s, but visited Russia and conducted performances of Tchaikovsky's music, and is writing a lot of music at this point. But it's not until 1892 when he gets an invitation and a great fee, and this is thanks to Brahms. Brahms really, in the late 1870s, 1880s, says this is a great composer, and we all need people to help us in our career. Brahms was the guy that kind of said Dvořák is writing music we should take note of, and I think he was lured to New York. He did a little teaching, a little conducting, and then got 4 months vacation for a salary of $15,000, which is a lot back then. That was 25 times what he was paid for to be in Prague. So of course you're going to go to America, even though he was very homesick, very, very homesick, very sensitive person. Had a crazy obsession with trains and pigeons. So he really liked to watch trains. Forget what that's called, but there is a term where, and people, I don't know if he was obsessed, perhaps, with trains and with looking at pigeons. This is what, a hobby. When you're not composing, you're doing this stuff. But when he comes to America, he's discovering American music, but he's also got this Czech folk background. I mean, he used a lot of Czech folk themes in his music. But America is when he writes his most famous music over here. And so from 1892 to 1895, he's the director of the National Conservatory of Music in New York City. This was pretty big because it was founded by a woman, Jeanette Thurber. She was very wealthy. And she said, sure, I'll give you the money, but you have to make it open to women and to black students as well as white, which was, unusual for the time. He had a pretty nice little contract there, but he was very influenced by when he came to America, and he even says that he wouldn't write the music that he did write in America without seeing what was going on here musically. He was very into black music, very into Native American music and the music of America, and said that this is the growth of music here for you guys. Sometimes it takes an outsider for us to see what we're missing, to say, hey, you got something really great here. This is before jazz. Scott Joplin's going on. I don't know I'm sure he was aware of Scott Joplin. I'm not entirely sure. So he's not really saying jazz, because jazz isn't really around then, but he's saying there's a lot of great folk American music here that you guys should be looking at. So in the winter and spring of 1893, after a year of being in America, Dvořák's commissioned by the New York Philharmonic to write probably his most famous work, Symphony No. 9, the New World Symphony. Why do you think it was the New World? Because America was a new world for him, right? But it was also to mark the centennial of Columbus's discovery of America. This piece is so great, and there's so many things we could talk about it. Neil Armstrong, the astronaut, took a recording of this New World Symphony along with his Apollo 11 mission because it's so powerful. It premiered at Carnegie Hall and was hugely successful. But Dvořák said, like I mentioned, that he wouldn't have written it had he not seen America. He was inspired by America's wide open spaces, much like Aaron Copland would be in 30 years from now. But because he's so sensitive, he gets very homesick, so he goes back to Europe. And his final years, he's writing music, composing operas and chamber music, and returns to his professorship at the Prague Conservatory, and then dies in 1904. He had a very nice personality. He was humble, he was deeply religious, and loved nature, a family man, and just a few of the... Personally, my favorites are his serenades. His Serenade for Strings was written in 2 weeks. I mean, he's 34 years old. This is in 1875. And all of the movements, the four movements, are just lovely. He said that this was probably his the happiest time in his life. His marriage was just starting, and they had their first son. And he was also, for the first time, recognized as a composer, and without feeling impoverished. And as if we just listen to it, it's so gorgeous. And my favorite piece of his is something that I listened to as a child, is Serenade for Wind Instruments. This is in 1873, so he's my age, 37, when he writes this. Really, it's the Andante movement that just gets me. The rest of it is great, but just take a listen to how gorgeous this is. he leaves so much space for feeling in this. It's moving, but it's not moving too quickly. It's so evocative of, I don't know, personally to me, the beach, perhaps waves moving. Just you can see his influence from nature, probably, because I mean, it sounds so peaceful and so soothing. Just one of my favorite pieces of all time. So I hope you enjoy this. It's a little flavor of Dvořák. There's so much music we could be listening to and talking about with him, but we just need flavors because, well, I mean, my attention span's not that long either. So I got to be honest too. But some of these pieces I just love of his. So Dvořák, put him on your playlist for Spotify. You'll be happy you did. Okay, tomorrow I have something special planned, little to change it up a little bit, but you'll have to wait. So I love you and I miss you, and thanks for watching. Really appreciate it, and see you tomorrow.